Hello and welcome to another episode of Katie in the Kitchen. I'm here with a special guest and this is my mom,
Hi everybody.
Susan. So today I thought it'd be fun if we could make a dish from my childhood since we are here in my childhood home. And so I'm here with my mom and I wanted her to teach all of us how to make a special dish that I used to request as a child for my birthday. We would make it for certain holidays, or if we wanted to give a meal to a family, this is something that we would make. And so what is it that we're gonna make today, Mom?
This is a chicken dish that I don't know where I found it or how I started with it, but I've been doing it for a long, long time and have kind of made it my own. But it is a chicken casserole with sweet potatoes, onions, cranberries, or you can also use dried cherries, with a balsamic, reduced thyme, and
Orange marmalade.
marmalade. And yeah, orange marmalade or fig. Yeah. Well, I think it's a complete meal. So, but sometimes we would put it with a salad or over a bed of rice because it makes a nice juice. Because all the sweet potatoes,
The juice from the chicken and the marmalade jam.
yeah, it all marinates
Marinates
together.
well, and you can put it over rice. But there is already a carb starch from
Right.
the sweet potatoes, so it's just kind of something that you can choose to do or not.
A salad is nice with it if you're
Yeah,
really
salad.
hungry.
Yeah, it's good to balance out with some other vegetables, not just the starchy tubers. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, so let's get cooking. All right, so we're gonna wash the potatoes first. These we're using a regular sweet potato and then a Japanese sweet potato. Japanese sweet potatoes have a reddish, purplish skin, but on the inside, unlike regular sweet potatoes, they are actually white. And they are a bit sweeter and the starch is different. So you wanna peel the potatoes to take the skin off, and you can see here that is white on the inside, so it's a bit deceiving. But Japanese sweet potatoes are a different texture because the starch content is different than regular sweet potatoes, so you can see the different colors. At Whole Foods, where I got the potatoes, they had the variety of potatoes, and I like to mix and match different types of ingredients so that way you're getting a variety of nutrients. So when you get different types of fruits or vegetables, the ones that are a bit less conventional or common per se, those ones maybe are less likely GMO or are sourced from a better place. So I'm sitting here today and we're gonna talk about what my childhood was like eating with having my mom cook for me and my brother. And we're gonna talk about, the influence that I had on how I started to eat healthy because of the influence my mom had about how she chose what she cooked for us as a family. So what did you eat when you were a kid? How did your parents feed you?
My dad was more the person who cooked in our family rather than my mom. He was really ahead of the game. I mean, for someone who didn't have any education, because he pretty much grew up in a boarding school, so he didn't really cook with his parents much, he was always thinking about health. And for example, for breakfast, he would make buckwheat pancakes. No one ever heard of that. And it was something we would have, and we didn't have maple syrup. We would have lemon, he would sprinkle lemon, and then he would put a little powdered sugar. And that was what we had for breakfast. It really wasn't that appealing. I didn't care for it, but I ate it because I was hungry. But I didn't know anything else because I didn't have other things except for when I'd go to maybe one of my girlfriends' houses and then I'd get some of their food, their real pancakes out of a box, and things like that. We were European, so my parents grew up in Ireland. I was born there. I think about food and I thought about how I didn't have the best experience, however, it was the best for me. And why I say that is because a lot of times I had sardine sandwiches for lunch and liverwurst. My dad would make my lunch in the morning, and very often he would take a piece of toast, toast it, put a sardine and a little bit of butter on it, and put it into sometimes a bag from the bread that was left over, the plastic bag, and tie a little knot and put it in my lunch. I was not popular at lunchtime. There was nothing to trade. That was sad. But, you know, I mean, I turned out okay. I was pretty healthy and grateful for that. Liverwurst was probably not the best thing. It was probably a lot better in those days than it is now.
How did your dad know what to make for you? Like, why did he choose the buckwheat? Why did he choose the liverwurst and the sardines? Is that something that he grew up eating?
No,
or?
I don't know, and I wish I had asked him. He's gone now, but I would have loved to have asked him why he knew that. I don't know if it was instinctive or it was something that he might have been reading. Maybe he got books. You know, my parents owned a nursery school. We were one of the only nursery schools that offered hot meal for lunch, except for Wednesdays, and they had peanut butter and jelly. We didn't do sardines because that wasn't going to go over too well in America.
Right.
And so peanut butter and jelly was our Wednesday, and different days were different foods. Like Fridays we had fish sticks and corn with mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was just part of the education, opening up a nursery, learning how to do a well-balanced meal. You know, there was the pyramid that they followed, you know, and
Food
so
pyramid.
The food pyramid. So I just think it just kind of progressed into that, or it just kind of happened.
Yeah. You were born in Ireland.
Yeah, but I grew up in America.
Right. So
Yeah.
your parents grew up
Yes.
and lived
Everything
in Ireland
Yeah.
until they were
In their 40s.
40s, and you
late
moved
40s.
to America when you were 4.
Right.
So I'm assuming that your parents learned from Ireland and Europe as how to feed kids and went based off of the European culture. So as we know, Europe and America have very different ideals about food.
Right.
And especially for kids. On Disney Channel, they had that segment Pass the Plate. And they would have kids talk about food and their families and what they would make at home.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the vast difference between what a kid from Asia would eat versus a kid from Australia versus America versus India,
yeah.
China.
Yeah.
And it was just fascinating to see what we think is normal is so different in different cultures. So I'm assuming your parents probably learned from what they were surrounded with.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
Europe.
I mean,
and
going back to my dad, his grandparents were farmers. They grew their own vegetables, and they had their own steer, and they had their own lamb. You know, lamb was a big deal in Ireland, and they had trout farms, and so you ate from the land. And so I think part of that was that you just learn, you know, to eat seasonal, whatever was in stock at the time, you know, whatever it was, you'd go out and bring in, you could forage.
yeah.
And so my mom on the other side grew up more in Dublin, in the capital, like so city. I don't know that she had as good a exposure, but she was one of 5, and my grandmother cooked a different meal for every single child. And my aunts and uncles would talk about that, about how everybody got a different meal. It was terrible because it taught them all to expect that in life and not just learn to enjoy something that they didn't like. They would
Or
just say,
adapt.
I'm not going to eat it. And
Yeah.
so then my grandmother would make them what they would eat. And
Yeah.
so I don't know that it was always the best. Except for my mom and my uncle, they're all living and they're in their 90s. So she was doing something right.
I guess so. When you became a mom and you have 2 kids and you were a stay-at-home mom
Yes.
up until we were in high school,
Yeah.
having the time to cook and prepare the lunches and to kind of be that homemaker, how did you decide to feed me and my brother, Francesco?
Okay.
Because we were young and my brother, I know, was a pickier eater than me. I mean, I guess at that point, cookbooks were a thing, and I know Martha Stewart was big, but I don't know if like Pinterest was really a thing.
no.
Nobody had like online blogs for
I don't
cooking
think
and
I
stuff.
had a cell phone. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I guess
Probably
I
not.
did have a cell phone, but it wasn't something that you used like a computer that your phone is like, you know, you're linked to everything now.
Right.
No, I think a lot of mine was just from instinct, studying. In those days, you would go to the library and get books or look. I really took my role as being your mom, raising you to the best I could. There's a lot of responsibility. As a mom, you feel like you want to make sure your kids eat and are healthy, and also can strive and do the best that they can, because it's their, you know, when they're little, it's really important because things are developing so fast. and exposure. I remember being terrified when I was pregnant that I was going to eat the wrong thing. I wanted to make sure I had all of the different vitamins and nutrients to make sure that, you were growing properly. But I found that when I started really taking an interest in it, there wasn't a lot of options. Life was busy. I couldn't even imagine a mom who would be working and trying to do all of that. They would have to be extremely organized. I started noticing that a lot of my girlfriends, when I would talk to them and I would hear about what they were making for their kids, and they just didn't have time, and I just sort of thought, well, gosh, maybe I could help. I started looking for things, giving them tips, started researching, even went to a couple of grocery stores and said to them that maybe it would be helpful if they created a few of these packages that parents could come in and pick up that would, offer a fast, and, they didn't have to research it.
How helpful was your pediatrician at giving you advice?
No offense to the pediatrician, but if you don't ask the questions, they don't think to answer. They don't tell you.
They don't voluntarily tell you what to do.
Not mine, yours, no. I mean, it was an older gentleman. There was no discussion about what would be healthy for you guys to eat. I'm sure they probably talked a little bit, but it didn't resonate with me. I don't remember there ever being any discussion about that.
So that's surprising to me to hear that the pediatricians aren't educating the parents how to feed the children. Yeah. They know how to tell if a child is progressing or not. We know how much the parent and how healthy the parent is influences the offspring. So for men, I think it's the 9 months before conception is more important for them to be taking care of their health, for the health of the sperm that they're then passing on to the next generation. And for women, while they're carrying the child, that's really important, those 9 months. And not just with food, but also emotional stress, psychological stress.
Right, exposure to chemicals.
Physical stress, exposure to chemicals. And there's so many different things that we don't always think about or don't educate or weren't educated about to think about to improve the chance that you have at your kids being healthy. When my brother and I were young, I remember from my childhood, I would eat Pop-Tarts, Eggo waffles, Lunchables on a rare occasion, like fruit snacks, cereals. Oh my gosh, loved cereals, all the sugary ones. And yeah, those are just some things that I think about. Pastas.
Yeah.
And then you switched. You made a switch.
Right, because I'm thinking about that as you're mentioning it, that a lot of it was that I never had an Eggo waffle. I didn't have my first Twinkie till I went to college. I didn't even know what it was. And so I think what happened is then when I had kids, I thought that they were not doing me a justice by giving me these things. They were keeping me from all these things that everybody else had. Like I wasn't getting that. I felt like I was being not punished, but why, wasn't I having those things, not knowing. And so, I was going to make sure that, I offered all kinds of choices to my kids so that they wouldn't have feeling like I was but now looking back on it, and it wasn't until a little bit later that I went, okay, well, we can do a little bit here. Being at home every night, having dinner together as a family was very important to us. We wanted to make sure that it was a well-balanced meal. It was a great time for us to be together, hear about everybody's day, and share support. But also to know that if you had a little bit of junk during the day, you were at least getting a good, sensible meal at night that would hopefully feed your brain and help you to sleep well, and then be able to perform the next day.
Totally.
You were learning a lot.
I remember when I was in middle school, it was a mix-up. Some days I would get a healthy chicken salad or sandwich or something, and then some fruit. I think there's always fruit. And then I remember when I went to high school, it was usually a salad with chicken and different vegetables, oil and vinegar. And maybe some chips or Cheez-Its or goldfish or pretzels or like something else in addition. So it was balanced. You had something that was fun and then something that was healthy. A lot of the people I'd sit with at lunch, especially Sharon, would always look at what I was eating and was like, oh my gosh, your mom makes the best lunches. And there was a bit of jealousy, I could tell.
Wow.
But I noticed that the kids who noticed that and respected it and valued the work that you put into making those lunches, their parents worked. They came from a dual income family, or their parents weren't as health conscious. The parents would have the kids get food from the the school, have a hot meal from the school, which wasn't really that healthy.
Yeah. You know, actually, you mentioned that. That's kind of interesting. So I think habits are formed and you carry them over. And I think that my habits weren't the best for how to, first of all, your brother was very, very picky. He would negotiate with us for the vegetables, for everything. It was hard to find things. You were much easier to please. Like, you would try it and many times enjoyed it. Like, you seemed to have a
curiosity.
it was sort of like a natural thing to want to eat healthy. Like, it just came to you. Like, you just were like, oh, I know I should eat this. This is good for me.
Intuitively.
Intuitively. I went back and forth. So what ended up happening is the first child was a picky eater. So I had certain foods that I had going for him. So yeah, I naturally continued it to you when you actually would have not eaten those things. But because I just assumed, I started giving you those things.
Like more unhealthier.
Yeah. And I think I got caught up in advertising, you see the ads. And then the other kids, like, okay, you guys are going to soccer practice or to baseball or something. And this mom is on, this is my week to bring the snacks for the thing. Everybody brought that
Capri Suns,
that was
Gatorades,
and and then
bagels.
Usually be these terrible things that really now looking back on it wasn't really fueling your body or with good resources, or slowing you down.
Sugar rush. I do remember in high school playing tennis. We'd always
and we had apples,
but I remember the moms would bring bagels.
Yeah,
I'm thinking to myself, how did I feel good playing tennis? Like, I don't really remember that, but now as an adult, realizing how food affects the body, I must have felt so sluggish to go from eating a full bagel with cream cheese 30 minutes before playing a sport that requires cardiovascular exercise, agility, and being, hand-eye coordination. The food that I just ate wouldn't have been fully digested and processed. So it's not like it's fueling me, it's like slowing me down.
Right.
So I think about those things and I wonder, gosh, could I have been a better athlete or a better player, or could I have won that match that I didn't win if I had different food?
I would do apples. I remember it was like apples with maybe either peanut butter.
And usually water versus a juice.
I never actually was a fan of Gatorade.
Yeah,
I know that they really advertised it as being the electrolytes and all these things that would help you, supposedly.
Every athlete needs Gatorade because you gotta fuel up.
It was like
otherwise
Wheaties,
the fall over and
breakfast of champions.
Yeah.
It's a dish you can also make the day before. Very often when we would have dinner parties, I would make a number of casseroles and then get them all prepared and put them in the fridge and then just take them out about an hour and a half before we had our guests arriving, and it would sit and marinate throughout the night, which was very good, and it was great. I was ready to go. It was an easy meal, and I think we even had it during Halloween a few times where the kids were trick-or-treating.
So you can use all different types of marmalades or jams.
You can even, in Michigan, the Michigan cherries are great. You can use a Michigan cherry. And figs. Figs are great. They are extremely high in iron, so this meal is almost a complete meal. So you get a lot of different
what does that mean, complete meal?
I think because it offers you the protein, vitamin D, the vitamin E, the C from oranges, or you want to add strawberries or the fruit. With the figs is just very high iron and fiber, and so
sweet potatoes are high in vitamin A,
which
is great for your skin and your eyes because of the orange color. And then the chicken's protein. Then we have some fiber.
Yeah, and then whatever you add to it, if you add a vegetable or a salad or something like that. But it can be its own meal. I mean, it's really... and
it is its own meal.
Right. You don't have to add anything to it. Everybody likes it. I have yet to find anybody, unless they haven't been true to me, to say that they didn't like it. Even kids like it, which is a great way to introduce. Sweet. I have done this before. They don't know this, but I have thrown in turnips and a few other things into it that they didn't realize I was giving them when they were kids. And just to introduce that, and anything that has sort of a sugary substance to it, it can
kind of masks
the flavor.
masks the veggies or the...
Yeah, the turnips meaning rutabagas, because that was a big dish I used to eat when I was a child.
Yeah.
And when it boils, it gets very similar to the orange color.
The texture and color.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so but you did do something to help
Yep.
the schools in middle school specifically. What did you do to help the food system there?
I was blessed with a really good PTA program, and there was a few moms who shared the same interest, and we started talking one day, and we decided to meet after one of the meetings, and there was a pediatrician in the group and a bunch of different moms, and we all realized that we shared the interest in trying to improve the school food, what our kids were getting exposed to. More importantly, how they were getting treats from the teachers, like how they would give them. Because I remember when you guys were in first grade, the teacher would always give, if you answer the question right or you got something, oh, we're going to give you a Starburst. And I swear I kept thinking, do you have a son that's a dentist so you get business? Because every time it was just a recipe for getting a cavity because it would sit in your teeth. But anyway, so it evolved. Your middle school was a little bit unique. It started in third grade. We would drop you off, and a lot of times, you know, you'd walk in to walk you to your class, and you could smell the cookies. At 8 in the morning, they had the Nestle cookies that were the ones that they cut and they put on the plate on the Toll House. The smell was amazing. It was just really bad because it was like, I can't even imagine.
So bad it's good.
Yeah, because the kids needed them, right? So that was where it started us thinking, what in the world are the schools doing? Why are they making chocolate chip cookies in the morning before these kids go into class? And they'd all line up for it. It was a great sales tool for them. They made a lot of money from it. But we started talking to teachers, and teachers were saying, oh yeah, it was great. You could come in, you could tell who got the cookies. They'd still have chocolate on the corner of their face. By 10 o'clock or even like not even that long, the kids would be
They'd have
lying
the sugar
down.
rush and then the sugar crash.
Oh yeah, they were tired, they were, you know, irritable. It was a bad situation. And so we started thinking we have got to get a hold of this because these are our children they're affecting. We don't see them for all these hours. What is going on? More importantly, what the lunch is like. Because a lot of parents were getting the hot lunch at school. So we started looking. There was no salads offered at that time. We got rid of the high fructose corn syrup out of the chocolate milk. That was a big deal. Yeah, they were buying it from a company, and we had to go to Sedesco at the time. They were the company that was servicing the schools in the district, and talk to them. We went on a corporate level, and we were able to get them to outsource the chocolate milk to another company that did not use the high fructose corn syrup.
Wow.
And you know, it's funny because milk has a real history with school system and how when I was a child, they forced us. We couldn't even get water. When you would get your lunch, you had to pick milk, and it was white milk. And you didn't get a choice of anything else, but we were always trying to push milk on kids. You know, I remember my girlfriend and I, we would get little Ziploc bags and we would bring the chocolate with us, and then we'd dump it into the milk because we just didn't like the taste of milk, but we were thirsty.
Yeah.
And we'd wonder why we were so dehydrated because we wouldn't get any water unless we go to a water fountain during the day. We weren't allowed to bring our little, like you see kids now all the time with the big, you know, things of water walking around in their backpack. We didn't have that. You know, when we would finally go out and we'd go to walk from one class to another, we'd be able to stop at the water fountain and get like a little drink of water.
Wow. So I know that the reason why a lot of schools push the milk is they think the calcium is good for the bones. Now, I think that there's some truth to that. However, I think that the potential inflammatory effects of the milk can be worse off for the kids. And especially with how most dairy is processed these days. It's so different than it used to be. It's not like it's the raw milk that you're drinking that's got the calcium, that's got the nourishing benefits. It's actually hyper processed. It's usually skim milk, which is just plain sugar, pretty much, sugary water, and barely any nutritional value and inflammatory.
And then it says added vitamin D. Like, what's that? Like,
Yeah.
how do you add vitamin D to milk? Isn't it already supposed to be in the process of milk?
If it was done properly, yes.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in the American food system,
Yeah.
there's a lot of shortcuts to try to increase volume and lower costs.
Yeah.
And so who gets the brunt of that? The school system, kids. The kids are the future. As we talked about, with the students having the sugar crash, I think there's a big issue with we're not fueling the kids well enough to be able to focus in school, to learn the information, and then apply themselves and become good, healthy citizens.
It wasn't until we started, actually, we created a group that went and we talked with the teachers, do a survey to ask them about the students, like during the day, what would happen, their reactions, what was happening with the day. So many of the parents talked about the kids' food and how it affected their behavior in the classroom. A lot of them that were disruptive hadn't had a breakfast. They didn't even get breakfast. Moms and dads would send them to school to get this breakfast. They were giving them breakfast with chocolate chip cookies, and the kids could pick what they wanted.
Right.
And so they would get, very unhealthy boxes of cereal, and we just weren't educated, we were misled, there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
It ended up being the start of something which was amazing. I think it definitely was something that you innately took, because all of a sudden now you were aware of what you were eating, because I would say, what are you looking at? What are you doing? When you go over to somebody's house, what are they serving you? Like what are you eating at other people's homes? Or,
Right.
when you go to the grocery store, when you'd go with me and you'd run over to grab something and I'd say, no, we're not getting that. Go put it back. That's not healthy.
I want to talk about then how I implemented the same teachings that I learned from you and just from growing up, and then my interest in health as well that started my senior year of high school. But before I do that, just to keep touching on what you guys did as a PTA to help change at the corporate level. So for someone who's watching this that knows that there's an issue still in their local community with school, is that something that they as an individual can be bold and courageous and go to the food system at the school or go to whoever's in charge and say that there needs to be a change that's made? Or do they need a crew of people, multiple moms or multiple parents being involved for people to listen?
Yes.
Like, what do you think?
We were a group of 5. We really weren't a lot. We went to the PTA to get some backing from them, but it was really us. We really did this by ourselves. We were in the field. We went actually, and we were at the cafeteria. The cafeteria didn't have the manpower to do the things we were trying to change. If they were going to offer a salad bar, there was nobody there to purchase the proper lettuce, to get all of the little condiments that would go with it, and to be able to give the salad out, because they couldn't have kids going up and serving themselves. So we all had to, 5 days a week, had to each a lot. Okay, I'll be Monday, so-and-so be Tuesday, like that. And we would go and work for free at the school to help them. And it was a matter of training the Sedesco people so that hopefully then they took it. And now there's a lot of things that they're doing. So I'm sure that if you go and you look at your own school, you should just go in and ask to speak to the food, or go have lunch with your child. Go to the cafeteria, you can have lunch with your child, and go see what it's like. See what's offered. See if the food look good. And then, ask to see, behind the scenes. Or if you're very, shy to do that, or you don't know if that's the best thing, then I would reach out to your PTA, find out if they have possibly one part of the PTA that is dealing with this, addressing, I don't know what you would call it, but the food. I know that when we started this was at the time when Michelle Obama, all of a sudden in Chicago, came out with a whole program that was doing everything, because not alone did we work on the food, but it was also about exercise. It was just about an entire change in the way everybody was living and how they were. So during lunch, we created where the kids would go out and they would walk around outside to get exercise, and they started teams, and there was competitions, where you could get a stamp for every time you did a mile, and it was like a club, and then we had like something. So it's all about a mind, body, and spirit experience where you are eating better, you're getting exercise, and hopefully, you're feeling better and wanting to do better. So a parent, it's not an easy chore, but I think it's definitely the best decision I ever made, and it, would be in anybody's best interest if you're not seeing that your school is offering good, healthy choices, that you go to the PTA, because they decide really, I think, what company they use for bringing in the food. Or just start making lunches that are better to show and set the example. Like you said, these other kids saw that. But
what are they going to do? I guess they could tell their parents.
Well,
hey,
they could make it.
Had...
A lot of times you influenced what I made. You influenced what you wanted. I would ask you for different choices. So when I went to the grocery store, I would get that. And very often, I think why you are a planner now is that I was actually working at that time.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I had decided to go back to work. And so I actually was 8 hours a day myself. So when I was making your morning breakfast and doing your lunches before school, I was making my own, and we were all heading out together. So that was a new thing for me. And so it forced me to become organized and to have, on Sunday, I would lay out the whole week. So we made sure we had enough lettuce and all of the different things to make the meals. And onion, and you start to cry. I heard through Martha Stewart that one of the things is you turn water on, or you light a candle, and that will help to keep the scents from the onions causing your eyes to be irritated and to start crying. Or it looks like you're crying. But yeah, you don't want them to be too thin, because not everybody wants onion. It's more for flavor, and you can always pull it out. Put it into the pot. We're just going to use a half an onion since we're making only enough for 3 people. Usually I'll use 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar. Add a little bit of olive oil. Then take the little pieces out of it and throw it into it. We don't waste any of it.
It smells good.
Yeah, it's nice and fresh. I don't think we need this many, so we'll just... mix it up a little bit. There we go. Probably a little bit more onions in consistency than I would normally have, but we'll add cherries on the top. When we cover it over the chicken, sometimes you'll realize that it might be missing something.
So something I noticed about that you just reminded me. So when I got to college, my time was limited. I was in classes, and I was either in class studying, exercising, or in an extracurricular activity with my friends or colleagues. And my time for food and cooking was very limited. But I found that the less time I had, and this also applied when I was in high school and I was in sports, the less time you have, the more efficient you become with that time, because you have no other choice, and it forces you to be disciplined. So hearing you say that, I'm like shocked a little bit, because now I never see you planning things, and this is no disrespect, no dig. I'm just noticing, wow, how much that external influence does make a difference in how you show up and how much you have to plan. Like when I was working full-time in the clinic, I had to get up a certain amount of time to have enough time for my meditation, to get ready, to make my breakfast. Sometimes I'd bring it to work and I'd be eating while I'm looking at notes. And then I had packed my lunch, so that way I knew I was getting a good meal so I could feel good the rest of my day, and then go home and make dinner, or I'd meal plan on Sundays and prep ahead of time. So it just reminds me about how discipline is really created when you are in a scarce situation with time.
Right, you're just forced to do it.
You're forced to do it.
Yeah.
So speaking of school and, feeling good by what I eat, so when I was in high school, I started to understand how much food is impacting my health. I remember I wasn't the kid who carried around the water bottle until I realized how dehydrated I was from just school in general and sports. But I remember that for Lent, my senior year, I gave up all processed foods. And I don't even remember why I did it. I think it was just maybe God speaking to me and just telling me to do this. And I remember once I cut all of it out, inflammation went down. I felt better. My gut felt better. My energy improved. My focus, my skin improved. Like all across the board, I was a better person because of it. And that inspired me so much to start really thinking about what I'm consuming and how that affects my health. And I talk a little bit more about this in an interview that I did in college at Marquette, and I can link the interview below if anybody wants to go deeper into my story behind that. But when I was then in college, I noticed that the dorm food that they were serving was not good. And a lot of these dorm programs, the food and dining halls at schools or Sodexo or these big companies, is they're using seed oils, peanut oil, soybean oil, and those are huge for causing inflammation in the gut, especially if you have any kind of dysbiosis or dysregulated balance of the bacteria in your gut. And you add stress on top of that of exams and performing well, plus being completely on your own now as an adult, a young adult. And it's a recipe for disaster. And that's why a lot of people talk about the freshman 15, because kids just are put into an environment where they have to fend for themselves, and there's an adaptation period. So I wasn't the only one that was feeling terrible from the food in the school that they were serving us in the dining halls. And I think you had inspired me because of what you did with the school food in my middle school, for me to speak up and talk to the advisory board at Marquette and say, hey, I don't feel great, and I'm not the only one. Other students are feeling bad, and it's affecting our performance. It's affecting how we can show up. I mean, we're here to get a good education. We're here to learn, and we can't do that if we are struggling with our health. And I remember they at first were a little apprehensive.
Oh yeah, they were threatened.
They were threatened because they didn't know what to do. I mean, they're listening to the big corporation. They're the middleman. But I was persistent, and a couple of the people on the board really started to pay attention to what I was saying, because they realized the students are the target audience. They're the ones that are going to be complaining or praising the food and the school. And they're going to go talk to their parents, they're going to talk to their teachers, they're going to talk to their friends, and then that's going to either create a good or bad reputation for the school. And so it was a big problem. And thankfully, they were open to taking some suggestions from me and some other students to make a difference. And they started improving the quality of the food, I believe. They started bringing in stations for allergies, whether it was gluten-free, dairy-free, peanut, soy. They were much better about labeling them and increasing the options that are available. They also brought in local chefs to highlight them in the area, to connect with the local community in Milwaukee. They started the Innovation Kitchen, and I don't know how much of an influence I had on those things, but it was starting to happen when I was there, where they had this industrial kitchen created where they could teach cooking classes to kids, or not kids, to teach cooking class to students and staff, and help educate them. Because this is a skill that we don't get taught unless it's from the family, from home, because they just don't have home ec anymore in school. And so thankfully I was able to teach a couple classes, and one of them was brain fuel for finals. That's where we were cooking salmon, and we made matcha protein bars, and I think we did a salad with that as well. And so I was teaching about, the omega-3s and the salmon that are good for your brain, and the matcha having antioxidants and energy and different things. Then I studied abroad and learned about the food and wine culture in Italy, and brought some recipes that I'd learned on the farm to teach people about the culture there. And it was really fun. And so I felt empowered as a student to be able to make that positive difference. And Marquette's slogan is "Be the difference." And I really felt like I was able to do that. And I think that I'm realizing that based off of what I'd been influenced by in my childhood, I was inspired. I was inspired to take action because I saw an example of somebody who had taken action, was brave and bold, and wanted to make a change, and it inspired me to do the same in my environment. So
That's great.
Yeah, and if there is anybody out there who's listening who doesn't care for the food that they either eat at work or that the kids are being served at school or at the hospitals or whatever it is, it's up to you to have a voice and to speak up, because the more people that speak up, the more people that recognize what's happening and speak up to ask for the change, that's what's going to make a difference. And the more people that speak up, I think the more likely that change is going to happen. And so, because of that, I've created a guide to help people who want to make a difference in their community regarding health and food. And if you want to download that, the link is in the description below. And my mom has helped me with that as well. And based off of our experience. Based off of our experience, we want to help in a tangible way with templates of letters, that you could write to your local government or food system, and ways to make a difference.
The best investment you can ever make. It's not just your children, it's your grandchildren, it's our future. Food fuels our body, and we really have been led down the wrong path on a lot of this. Advertising, big companies, that are making food, they've gotten way too easy with throwing things in that maybe shouldn't really be in the food. It's just go back to the basics. Go back to eating from the land. And hopefully the land is safe. And you do your best you can, and that's all you can do.
So, one of the last questions I'll ask for you today. So, if you could, with a magic wand, say bippity boppity boo, and change one thing about food in our country, what would that be?
Get rid of the antibiotics.
Why?
Because I now sell drugs. It's very funny how
pharmaceutical.
Pharmaceutical drugs. I went from somebody who was trying to change the school system and to do all that. Everybody said I would be probably the least likely person, but it's what you do sometimes. But I think that if I had to think about the one thing that if I had a magic wand, I think that if I could help to change just the way we care for our animals, and I think by how we, we're just massive, and so it causes them to have antibiotics because they're just not being cared for. They're not out and about. And so these antibiotics, like we talked earlier about milk, part of the problem was that the cows were being fed these antibiotics, and then it would automatically go into their milk. So when the kids would drink milk, you're getting the antibiotics indirectly, or you're from the water system. So the antibiotics being in everything, there's a necessity to them, but I think that also in animals, it tends to become more of just easier. Let's just throw this at them, keep them healthy, get them through so we can slaughter them. Like there's a very bad kind of...
It's a poor system.
Yeah, poor.
And I think what you're referring to is when the animals receive the antibiotics, the thought or the reason behind that is to lower disease risk.
Right.
Because they're in confined areas.
Right.
Whether it's chickens, cows, cattle,
Pigs,
whatever it is, whatever animal. But then what happens is that then disrupts the gut microbiome of those animals, which we know the gut microbiome plays a huge role in overall health and wellness, whether that's mind or body, both. And what that also then is creating is drug-resistant microbes. So then it's creating diseases that we then don't have treatments for. And then that gets passed on to the people. And so then they can pick up these microbes as well. And that can affect how we feel.
Yeah, I mean, animals are byproducts of so many things. I mean, we use animals for the tallow, you know. I mean,
they're not byproducts.
What is that?
Byproduct would be the effect of them.
Okay.
So animals are a source for a lot of things.
Right, a source. And so you end up with, you know, a lot of things that come from the animals. Whether it, you know, we use their skin, their, you know, their coats for, you know, but it's still all the things that you eat. You are what you eat. So animals are what they eat.
You are what you eat eats.
Yeah,
too.
there you go.
Yeah.
It just keeps going
Mark
and going.
Hyman talks about that.
Yeah.
So what is one piece of advice that you could give to somebody if they have kids and they're trying to learn how to navigate feeding their family?
Do it with love. Always do it with love. And you know, you can never go wrong, you know, if you're based with love, because we're going to make mistakes and you can't beat yourself up. I mean, being a parent is a big role, and we're not trained to do this. I mean, I was thinking back, you know, home ec, I did have home ec when I was in school, but I don't remember anything about it. Yeah. Like, you know, it wasn't something that carried on. I think you maybe get it like a class. Now, I think they do home ec a little bit, but not much.
If they do, you have to seek it out.
Right, it would be
it's
an
not
extra
available for
curricular.
everybody.
Yeah. So that would be really important if that could be something they could bring back, because I think that would be, you know, essential. That and like finance, you know, being able to invest. You know, there's things that they need. But I think if I was a parent, I would just try to make it a well-balanced meal. Try and limit your high fructose corn syrup, limit your oils. Now seed oils are a new thing, but it really is important. And this brain food, I think, is the most important thing. Try to get good, healthy vegetables, fruits. If you can eat organic, eat organic. It costs more, but you would be better off. Just don't go out to eat. Cook at home and get organic. Find out where your source is. Eat local as much as you can, as far as go to the farmer's market. Try to cook in, you know, we used to have little gardens. Try and grow your own, because I think we have to teach our children that this is something important that needs to be passed down. And it doesn't always, you know, get heard. Sometimes it goes on deaf ears, but you know, you hope that we can leave the next generation better than we left, you know, than our generation. We really need it.
Yeah, and passing on the traditions, like the recipes that our ancestors made, and that we can learn. Like my dad's side of the family, their pasta sauce, and knowing how to cook those things. So it's
I mean, food is one we eat all the time. You know, we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Every day.
Typically, and you know, it's a time where you get a chance to share culture, stories, love, family. It's time to be with your family, and it's really important. I hope that we go back to eating more and having more time with family.
So how do you know when the potatoes are done boiling?
So my Irish grandmother taught me that a potato does not need to be cooked all the way through. You should take it off. Once you can take a fork and just gently touch it, pierce it. You don't want to go all the way through. You just want to go to where it's soft enough it kind of goes in. Then take the water off, because the potatoes continue to cook while they're sitting there. And then very often we would take like a dish towel, and once the water's out, put it on top of it and let the potatoes breathe for a few minutes, and that's how they continue to cook. And then move it to whatever you're going to mash them or put them into another one. This dish, though, however, we just want it to be gently cooked, because it's going to continue to cook in the oven when the meat cooks. So and the key is to cut each piece pretty evenly, so that you don't have one big one and one small one, so that everything cooks at the same temp, you know, the same time. The cold water on. It's going to be hot, of course, out.
Beautiful.
Take it, and this is linen, so you just kind of put it on. You can feel the heat coming through.
And that'll keep cooking them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just kind of soft. I don't know what it does, but it just kind of.
So we realized that we need to use a smaller container because we only have 2 chicken breasts.
Right. You just pretty much want it to be a flat layer.
You can use chicken breasts or chicken thighs. Typically we use chicken thighs.
Yeah, with bone in. Because it gives the meat much more flavor. It has to cook longer.
But it's worth it.
Yeah. You can't really overcook the dish. The more you cook it, it just caramelizes it.
We are using pasture-raised organic chicken. And now that this is done from the stove, we're going to pour that on top. So you didn't add any salt?
I didn't need to. I don't add salt. I don't add pepper. We can do it at the end afterwards if we want, but I've kind of always been of the belief that you add salt at the table because some people are sensitive to salt. I grew up in a family where my mom couldn't really have salt. We always had no salt. I needed salt because I was low. So how do you please everybody, right? You don't put the salt in the dish and then you let everybody salt it at the table.
All right, now that's going into the oven at 350 for how long?
About an hour.
Shh.
I need a spoon. I had a spoon too for the sauce.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Mom, so much for being on Katie in the
You're
kitchen.
welcome.
It's been so fun getting to share about food, over food, and let's dig in. Let's try this.
All right. So, do you need some salt?
Sure.
Okay.
Some Malden sea salt.
Yep.
It smells so good.
Yeah.
All right.
Bring back a memory. What are you thinking about when you read it? I know. Don't eat with your mouth. Don't speak with your mouth full.
Whenever I eat this, it brings me back to my birthday when I was, I don't know, maybe 10.
Really?
Because I remember you used to make this, or you made it one year for my birthday. I remember sitting at the kitchen table and everybody was around, and I don't know. Or it makes me think about when I would come home from school and you'd have it ready in the fall time.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm just nostalgic.
Oh, it's nice. Yeah, a lot of times I would try to make dinner early because when you guys would come back from school, you're always hungry. So instead of waiting till like 6 or 7 to have dinner, if you weren't doing a sport and it was winter, yeah, we would always have a dinner a little bit earlier so that then you'd have your evening available to, you know, study or do whatever and then have your snack. But yeah, it is still one of my favorites. It just, it's got a lot of flavor and it just changes in your mouth as you eat it.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like.
Totally. And I've never made this before with you.
You haven't?
No.
Have you ever made it?
I've never made it. I've made
Oh,
a version,
wow.
I think, myself, just trying to make it. But I didn't know that you used the balsamic and the thyme.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's good to now know, because now I know how to make this
Yep.
for my family.
Hey, maybe you'll make it for me sometime.
Maybe. If you're on your best behavior.
Of course.
I've never had it with the chicken breast. It's usually the chicken thighs.
You've had it with the breast, but
This
You
is
may
not
not
what you
remember.
typically, yeah.
yeah. Well, this is different because we did the fig. That's what's different about it.
Oh, yeah, I could taste the little crunch of the
Yeah,
fig.
I know. I just bit one. And
So, okay.
we have a special guest that wants to join in.
Come on.
She smells the food.
Oh, yeah. Woo! Thank you for watching Katie in the Kitchen. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you know when the next episodes come out. And don't forget to check out the other episodes that have already been posted so far. If you want to support this video and you really enjoyed it, you can like, comment what your favorite part of the episode was or any takeaways, and share it with a friend, share it with your family members, and happy cooking. Thanks for choosing to live life on the sunny side today. Until next time, bye-bye.